Welcome back to the Bayside Fabrication YouTube channel, guys. Got the motor all bled, and now we're going to do the break-in procedure. Now I'm going exactly by what cylinder support system told me to do, which is start the engine, let idle for 10 to 20 minutes, looking for leaks, etc. Blah, blah, blah. AFRs must not be too rich, as you will wash down the cylinders and blah, blah, blah. A few quick blips of the throttle are suggested, and essentially run the motor for 10 to 20 minutes, kind of blip in the throttle, let it get up to temperature, and while it's hot, change the oil immediately. So that's what we're going to do now, and we're just going to let it run for more than 10 seconds, because last time I just turned it on and off real quick. And we're just going to make sure all systems are go, everything's good, our oil pressure's looking good, and go from there. So without further ado, we're ready. All right, 90 pounds of oil pressure. We're just gonna let it get warm now. Got some oil burning off the header wrap from when it blew up. A lot of oil on that header wrap. The last motor never got to get hot enough to burn it off. But still 80 pounds of pressure-ish. Burning off really hard. It's not leaking anywhere that I can see, so we'll double check, make sure our valve cover's not leaking on the header, but I don't think it is. Alright, coolant temp's 193. Our radiator fan should be turning on. That should drop right down anytime now. And there it goes. Our thermostat just opened. It's just me, but this throttle seems way snappier with this turbo. Like way snappier. Yeah, it's starting to burn off a little less in there. We're about the 10-minute mark. It said do like 10 to 20, so I'll call it in the middle. I'll go 15, and we'll get this oil changed out. It's probably gonna be shiny and things like that, but that's how it's supposed to look. So super fired up, guys. All right, we're shutting her down. That was about 15 minutes of running. Engine got nice and hot, and yeah, we're just gonna shut it down and get that oil out of there. refill, and then we'll be able to start driving it around to give it a proper break-in. There must have been a lot more oil than I thought in that header wrap. I probably would have replaced it if I'd known it was that soaked, but all right, we got the old oil out, so I'm just gonna run it through this, I don't know how many micron or whatever filter this is, just to make sure there's no big pieces, but it looks totally normal for what they're saying. There is a sheen to it, which they said is absolutely normal for a brand new motor. So we do this. We obviously have shimmery oil, totally normal. That's why we get it out as soon as possible here. And then the next step, it should be nowhere near this bad. And that's after about a half an hour of driving. Light driving, quarter throttle, don't rev past 4,000 RPM kind of deal. It should look much better than that. And then then after that oil change, we got to put a few hundred miles on it, and then we're good to go pretty much after that. So it's kind of a stepped progression with oil changes, and I'm just doing exactly what they tell me. And so far, everything looks good. There's no big chunks of anything. Engine sounds great, no weird noises. So I'm very optimistic so far that everything's looking good. Well, we're getting ready for our first drive, and I gotta do two more things before that happens. We have to pull the shift kit off this transaxle and get it installed on this car, which should be a bolt-on affair. And then I have a little more involved setup here that I wanna show you what I'm working on. And this is my cross member. So I decided to do was to lower this motor approximately a ½ inch. So the original way I had it, it was stuffed up as high as possible to clear the factory cross member. Now, what that challenge, presented was very tight clearances here, very tight clearances on the inside, and really not necessarily the best setup. So what I went and did was I am creating this tubular, this is chromoly tubing, and it's allotting for an additional approximately 1 inch of clearance overall on this motor. So as it sits now, or as it sat before, I had like 1/8 of an inch of clearance from the bottom of the oil pan to the cross member, which is a little too tight for comfort. And now with the spacer I added to the motor mounts, it sits about a ½ inch lower, which sits approximately a ½ inch now higher above this tubular cross member. So this might also work for other swaps. So I'm going to offer it as part of my kit here that I've been kind of putting on the back burner because I've just had so much stuff going on. But effectively now, we're going to just tie in a couple of triangulation pieces here and here, get it all welded up. So this lower cross member should work out really well. And also in conjunction with that, I am going to build another motor mount. Right now, I just have spacers, and there's plenty of room to space out the motor mount. But right now I have spacers just spacing this down to represent where the new motor mount is going to put this. I do have a jig I've been working on right here, and kind of a mess of stuff going on here. But I got this jig for my motor mounts. So really I have everything here. And my plan all along has been to make this a swap kit. So I'm really just, kind of picking away at these things as we go during my swap and refining them for a final product that I can offer to sell once we obviously have a proven setup here. So with that being said, I don't think there's any question that we can fit this K-Series into this car. My issue has just been, honestly, a string of bad luck. I mean, it's embarrassing, to be honest with you, but, throwing in a, 250,000 mile junkyard motor that I got for $400 and throwing a giant turbo on it and expecting it to live, pretty silly idea. Second motor, that was just tune issue, boost issue, and that motor ran great. And, it ran great until we pushed it way too hard and blew it up. So that wasn't the fault of the car. That was trying to shovel 25 pounds of boost in stock internal motor. Third motor, that was just bad luck. Sheerly bad luck. Still don't know what was wrong with it. I think that little piece of metal I found in that one cylinder, I found a little tiny BB of aluminum in one of the cylinders. I think that was making the noise. And that was from, there was a little piece of metal I found in the intake manifold after the fact. So I didn't properly clean out my intake manifold, apparently, and that's what that was from what I'm gathering. So, fully built motor right off the bat. I think this is the way to go from here on out. So if we're to ever do this again, don't even mess around. Pistons, rods, you know, just get a built bottom end, throw some valve train in the head, and then, you know, do whatever else you want after that. You're gonna have a motor that can make 500 horsepower all day long without problems. So I just think that's the way to go on these. And that's really the power level that is, I think is going to be really appropriate for this chassis. So anyways, let's continue on this cross member, and we'll get this thing bolted up. These do, you know, have flexibility to them when you bolt it down, but look at all that room we have now. So before, this was pretty much hitting right here. So now I have, geez, that's probably well over an inch now. Okay guys, here we go. We got the car out of the garage, off jack stands, and ready to go for our first drive with the new motor. So on this drive, the instructions say to go for about 15 minutes to a half an hour and do quarter throttle pulls to like 4,000 to 5,000 RPM. So we're just gonna take it nice and light and just kind of rev the car out, put a small amount of load on it, I believe is the idea. And that will help build cylinder pressure according to cylinder support system. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. We're gonna come back after that, make sure there's no leaks or anything, and we're going to change the oil, and then after that we can put a few hundred miles on this thing and maybe enjoy it for 5 minutes. So I'm going to just get a little bit warmed up right now, and we're good to go. So I got a fresh oil change in here. I got my I should bring my laptop with me for sure. Okay guys, well, I'm just in here getting a couple things squared away before I take a drive. One thing I want to just make sure is our TPS is reset, so I'm just going to reset the throttle position sensor. Our wideband isn't displaying correctly. I messed with the entire dash. I'll actually show you guys a couple things I did. I messed with the entire dash, so now I have oil pressure, oil temperature, fuel pressure, coolant temperature, wideband, map pressure, you know, manifold pressure, air temperature, that's intake air temperature, and battery voltage, E85 content, blah, 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 blah. So essentially what I did was I went through and set alarms and everything for all this stuff. So for example, I have my oil pressure set to 30 PSI. If it goes below 30 PSI, this thing's gonna start flashing red and going nuts. And same with oil temp. If that gets too hot, I think I set it at what, 220 or 210 or something like that. I don't remember exactly. But you know, all these are moving targets, but I just kind of threw it in there just to make sure I had it at least baseline. So that's what I'm doing right now, and I'm just going through the Haltech, and we're just seeing if we can, I think I just messed up on the channel for my wideband, so we're just gonna see if we can get the wideband working before we take it for our little drive here, and just because I want to make sure our AFRs are, you know, where they should be. All right guys, here we go. So this is the next day. I wound up throwing in a new sensor, and it's still throwing a short circuit sensor code, which is odd because Yeah, which is odd because it was working fine on the startup. I actually went back and reviewed the video and everything looked fine. So, and it was working. So I have no idea what's going on. We'll have to have Neil take a look at that, or I'll play around with it. He said we're good to go though for the initial test drive here without the O2 display. He said he wouldn't worry too much about that because it should be running just fine. So it's a little bit of a risk, but hey, at this point I don't even care. Looking good. Yeah, a little paranoid. I was at that last traffic light. I looked at my rearview mirror and I saw a puddle on the ground, but it wasn't me. Another 10 or 15 minutes of driving around. I'm just gonna try to do these light pulls again, just like they told me to. Problem is we got traffic, so it's a little bit tricky. All right, we just took it for that break-in drive. Did the best I could, given what I had. Everything's looking good, guys. Just got some crap burning off here still. I mean, there was a lot of oil all over everything. So I mean, everything's looking fine so far. Like I said, I got a rattle that's crazy, and I'm pretty sure, actually I can see it. There's a little gap right there, and I guarantee once you hit a certain revs, they're just rattling together. So I'm gonna see if I can just open that gap up a little bit here. Try to solve that issue. But yeah, engine temp stayed fine. Everything looked good. I got no oil leaks, no coolant leaks. I did the best I could with doing the short pulls. They said just, you know, pull the like quarter throttle, 4,000 RPM, let off, keep doing it. So I just did it as much as possible. It was about 20 minutes of driving, 25 minutes of driving. And now we'll, while it's hot, we're gonna back it in the garage, change the oil, and see how it goes. Okay, I just drained the oil. I ran it all through this filter or paint screen here. As you can see, there's nothing, absolutely not one speck of anything in there, which is fantastic. And now we have, this is our, like I said, our second oil change. We have a little shimmer, but nowhere near as much as that first one. So everything is going exactly according to what cylinder support said would happen, and we're on the right track from everything that I'm seeing. So now it's the time where I am going to throw in our Valvoline VR1. We're gonna do, what is it, 2050 on this deal, and then we're gonna put a few hundred miles on this motor. Well guys, I think that's gonna do it for this one. I'm just putting around, putting some miles on it, and just not driving it hard and enjoying it for 5 minutes. Got a couple things I need to work out. There's a slight oil drip from the oil pan. You know, just little stuff like that. I'm gonna try to just get sorted out. But until then, we'll see you on the next one. And hopefully nothing interesting happens between now and then. Thanks, guys.